crooked. How come it's crooked today? Oh well, that. I hope they don't put wavy lines of part of the video to each side. That's kind of troublesome. Well, hello. Good morning. It's Nancy today. I think I'll button my top button. Make it look more organized here. It's nice to have a mirror. Well, good morning. Today is Monday, January 10th. So, I'm upstairs today. Let me get this button done, then I could talk to you. But see, nobody's here yet, so. Anyway, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm upstairs today. So I was thinking, I'm up here with my tea. And I have a big mess in this room. I haven't been interested in tidying it up. It just didn't appeal to me at all. I don't know why, but now I'm ready to do it. Oh, I know why. It's because I could ignore it. But now I want to set up all the rest of my plants up here. That ringing is I think it's the glass that goes around the light bulbs. I think it's the last one over there. And the fan is making it do that. So it's not your phone. I searched around thinking it was my phone. But I was using my phone. It wasn't ringing. What picture is that up there? I can't see it. It's got too many lights on it. Oh, I know. It's Joseph Smith in the woods when he prayed. Anyway, so, well, let's just have a prayer, shall we? Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this new day. Thank you for blessing us with our lives. Thank you for blessing us with whatever we have. And thank you for goodness and for blessing us with love and families and friends. And thank you for this opportunity to make a video today. And please bless me that I'll be able to clean up this big mess of a room and set up my garden so we can have some fresh vegetables through the winter without going to the store. I'm very grateful to Thee for all the energy that I have and that I've lived through 66 years and that I'm still going strong. Please protect us, bless us all with good health, that we may serve Thee and do Thy will on the earth. And thank you for Jesus Christ and for all He has done for us, that we might have the gospel, that we might have an example, and that we might be able to improve ourselves. And bless us that we may accomplish the things that we desire to do this day. And these things we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. There. That's better. It changes the room. Do you feel it? The room is different now. The room is full. It's full of the Spirit. It was an empty room before, but now it's full. I told you about when I went to see my dad after he had died, and they brought him out they were going to cremate him, and so he wasn't taken, they didn't do anything to him, and he was just under a sheet, and his face was showing, and it was an empty room. It was just an empty room with some couches in it, and he was on the stretcher over there on the side, and it was just a weird place. And so I prayed, and all of a sudden, the room was full of the Spirit. And it was just a nice room, and he was there, and I could just talk to him. Isn't that interesting how that works? It's so simple. If you have problems with negative stuff and with evil and demons and things like that, if you use the name of Jesus Christ, there's a song that says, Jesus, the very thought of Thee with sweetness fills my breast, and sweeter far Thy face to see, and in Thy presence rest. But just thinking about Jesus Christ Just thinking about him is enough to change things. It will take you out of a dark spot in your head. Of course, sometimes you have to say, "Get thee hence, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ." And when you say that, that really smartens up the room. That might be very important information for you to have. As every day there are more calamities, the storms and floods and earthquakes, and everything is so much bigger and so much worse, and everywhere, in places there never were before. And I wonder how many of us will be left with houses to live in. That's a real concern of mine. I've been really thinking about that lately, that whatever could happen right here, I don't know that insurance is enough anymore. I think the insurance companies are all going to end up bankrupt. My grass huts, those are my second spots. Anyway, so today I'm going to set up those trays with soil. I don't have any soil. All I have is some leaves. I don't even have leaves anymore, and straw. It's not enough to make soil out of. I mean, it'll make soil eventually, but it'll take a long time. If I soak all the straw in the water, if I fill the reservoirs with water and then soak the straw in them, therefore not filling them all the way, then I can make my garden beds. Also, I have a whole countertop here. I'll have to go and show it to you. I will later. But I have this whole countertop that's full of papers I've been sorting. And obviously the counters are important, and I need the counters now. So I think I will take all the things that I've been sorting and put them. I brought home some drawers. There was a house being renovated in Ottawa, and they were throwing drawers, beautiful, beautiful drawers, from cupboards and kitchen stuff. They're throwing them in the garbage. So I took a bunch of them, and so I'm going to put all these papers in the drawers and put the drawers under the beds. And that will be how I store all these papers. See the piles of papers, and there's a bucket over there, and then all that whole counter. These all came from the last counter, the last table where I was working on other things, on sorting them out. So I've been sorting them according to who they're about. So like all the letters from one person that were written to my mother, or all the Christmas cards from one person, they're all together now. And everything, different people's lives that my mother had things from, they're all together now. Not quite. There's a railroad cap. Now, nobody in my ancestry worked in the railroad. So this cap must not have been worn by somebody as for their job. Oh my. There's this place, they grew up in Blair, which is in Ontario. It's now in Cambridge. And there's this place called Langdon Hall. If you can Google it, Langdon Hall, and then you walk down the road from the Google Earth, you can walk down the road and see. Well, I emailed Langdon Hall and asked them if they had any old pictures. And they said not many, but they had 3, and they sent them to me. 2 of them were of my grandfather and my grandmother. Well, 2 of them were of my grandfather, and 1 was of my grandmother with my grandfather. They were sitting on a fence eating apples. Well, good morning. Good morning, Lynn. Nice to see you. I haven't met you before, have I? Lynn Schmidt. That's a good Pennsylvania name, German name, Pennsylvania Deutsch. I have ancestry from Pennsylvania, from Germany, and Switzerland before that. I don't think I have any Schmidts. Anyway, so you're working on storage too? No. Now, what was the question I asked you that you're saying no to? Whatever. Anyway, so I'm gonna work in here again. See, I had all of my, this is my spiritual room. So if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it will be given him. And then books, my journals, a prophet. These are pictures of, oh, you haven't been in Pennsylvania but once. I think if you do your genealogy, you'll find out that your German, Schmidt is a German name. That's all right. Oh, if you have a little microphone there, if you touch the microphone, you can just talk. It usually gets a little bit of it wrong, but fixing it takes a lot less time than typing the whole thing. That's how I write in my journal online or on, you know. Ah, here, it doesn't have a little microphone. That's right. Of course you're on this channel. Duh. Well, it's a very nice place in here. I can't believe that I have a place with this many windows that look out on these amazing mountains. And here I've been down there on the deck trying to show them to you. Yes, being techie, it comes with time, doesn't it? The more you spend time with some medium of, technological medium, the more it... You know what I've started doing lately? I decided that I have a lot of split ends. And so if I brush my hair, or even if I put my fingers through it, it all gets tangled about right here. But you can see how curly it all is, right? So I've decided I'm going to just shower whenever my hair is messy and I need to straighten it or straighten it up. I'll just take a shower. Ah, you were born in Pennsylvania. Yes, Schmidt is definitely a German Pennsylvania Deutsch name. I know a little tiny bit about these things. I was going to take a course. I have 2 courses left, anything above the 100 level, to get my degree. My finally getting a BA. I call it a BAA right now. I have a BA almost. I'm 66. So in Canada, I think it's free to take take classes in university after you're 65. So I guess I should just apply. I said it to my daughter-in-law. Oh, you're the same age as me. Life is young. Except, there's all these changes in your body. Anyway, I was telling my daughter-in-law that, she said, so you decided you're going to take classes? And I said, yes. And she said, well, have you enrolled yet? And I said, no. It's not really a good time right now. I'm not sure when to do it. She said, now. Now is always the best time. Anyway, so I guess I have to do that. But I'm busy. But you're always busy, aren't you? You're always busy. And the only things that you do are the things that you take time to do. If you don't take time to do it, you're just too busy always. Isn't it interesting when you haven't talked to somebody for a long time and you say, oh, hello, Jeannie from Kentucky. Oh, do it now. I will. So one of the courses of the 2 that I was planning to take was about the migration from Pennsylvania. When they came to Canada in 1800. It was a huge Conestoga wagon influx. I had a book once, fell into pieces, and I lost parts of it, but it was the Trail of the Conestoga. Now that is the phone. But I don't answer the phone because it's never for me. It's always for my husband. Now that's not the phone. That's the rattle of the glass around the light. I have the fans on in here. I'm not going to answer it. Soon I'll hear him thump, thump, thumping quickly to get it. Oh, there he goes. Yep, he found it. Hello? Yes. He's coming up here. No, he's not. I'm upstairs, should you need me, which I don't want to be needed because I'm busy. You disconnected the house phone, eh? I've never had the courage to do that. You know, my mother had the same phone number all my life. And until she died, it was the same phone number she'd always had. When we first got the phone, it was LI8 instead of 548. And when my grandmother had her phone in upstate New York, hers was something like that too. I don't know what her number was, but it is a good idea to use your phone, because that's who you want to phone, is the person with the phone. And now everybody has a phone, I guess. Yeah, you know, some people like just using the telephone and not doing all the other stuff on cell phones. Cell phones are pretty hard to figure out at the beginning. My mother had a really hard time figuring it out, but she had a flip phone, and even that was hard for her. And so on the back of it, she had all the steps written down, taped on the back. My mother was a secretary, and tape, rubber bands, paper clips, file folders, and pads of paper were her life. They were everywhere. And she would paperclip bills together, and she would use rubber bands to keep her book closed. Like her books she would fill with papers from things. It's interesting to go through all these papers. Sometime I will go through them and read them to you. That box there, that blue box, that is full of old letters that were written from relative to relatives, but it was like long ago, and they were all the same size, and they all fit in that box. A selfie stick clipped to the side table. That's an interesting idea. A selfie stick clipped to the side table. If I had a clip on a selfie stick, I have one of these. I guess it could be considered a selfie stick, but it's creative, curious, positive, and a doer. Creative, yes, very creative, I guess. Sometimes I'm not creative. Yes, I can see that. If you take a, I have this thing that's black, and it's bendable. So there's a big clip at one end, and then this big long bendable part, and then it's got a place for the phone. And I had gotten it so that I could put it over, and I could, or put it wherever. But the bend, the phone is so heavy that it just bends it down, and then it pulls the clip off. I don't understand that. How did they make a thing that would be so unuseful? I guess I could. Yes, you could take a stick, a real stick from a real tree, not a manufactured stick, and maybe a stick that has the right bend to it. And then you could screw one end onto something, or you could, I don't know how you clip the end of the stick. Could use one of those U-clips. What did you say? I was creative? Curious, yes, very curious, Positive and a doer. Yes, I'm curious about going back to school, if I should do this. Well, so the courses, I was going to take 2 courses that I wouldn't be able to fail. Because I kept thinking, I can't do it. Canadian universities are so hard. I made it is a good idea, eh? That's what mine is like, but it fits the table well. Yeah, I guess that I keep trying to put it places, move it around, like on a shelf, on a cupboard shelf. See, I would really like to be able to make videos. So, oh, good morning, witchy one. I haven't seen you for a long, long time. You used to have dreadlocks, didn't you? Wasn't that you years ago? That would be, what, 14 years ago now. Time goes by. But isn't it cool that we're all still here? I mean, not everybody, but I keep getting these notifications from my, are you a part of your school class thing? I'll go back to school. Okay. So anyway, the first course was going to be migration from Pennsylvania to Canada. I thought that would be interesting, but I really don't need it because, hey, 10 people with 2 thumbs ups. I always say that, don't I? Duh. Anyway, but all of my genealogy that has gone from Canada to Pennsylvania, gone back through the years, and then they were in Germany, I've already got all that research done. I already know all the people. So it's not really going to help me in my genealogy research. I started genealogy research in 1976, and there are tens of thousands of people in the genealogy tree now. If you use familysearch.org, that's my church, right? The Church of Jesus Christ. Anyway, and they have all the world that's been adding to it, and Ancestry started from the church. It's one of the members that went off and did his own. All these other branches, they started from the church, and so the church has they have microfilmed all the records in the world that they can find or can access. There are countries, of course, that won't let them, I suppose, but they have microfilmed all the records, and so the resources, you don't have to write to. Remember, you used to write to Somerset House in England to get the information about one person, and it would cost you like $10. That was back in the 70s. And now it's all online. It's all there. And it's all been connected together by all the people working on it. So you can put in a person who's been dead for at least a year, because otherwise all the records of living people are private. And so if you put in, like, the name of your grandparents or your great-grandparents, put in that information. And then you can go here. You're in Moscow, really? What do you mean it's dark already? You mean still? My live journal account is Russian. I'm not sure how that all will pan out. Anyway, don't want to get into that. I was drinking tea. Is anybody else having a drink? I mean, after all, we are having tea time. I find the sun rises so late and sets so early. People drive to work in this dark, and they drive home in the dark. Hi, Dion. Is that Dion? Is that right? I am well. And it's nice to be doing this. I was going to say earlier, before I interrupted myself, before I was so rudely interrupted, as my father used to say. Gee, there were so many topics. Dion. Dark to dark. So, that's what I was going to say. So I put up Christmas lights outside and leave them up all season until it's already light at 6, Doesn't usually get light at 6 for quite a long time. Right now, the sun rises and sets about 8 in the morning and about 4 at night. It was 45 minutes less light in Vancouver. I hadn't realized how much further south we are. We're down in the Great Lakes area. Coffee, green tea, and I'm having, lately we've been stopping at Tim Hortons, which I never do, but my son was doing that every day, and so I started, when he would go, he'd say, would you like anything? While we were in Vancouver, we were together for 2 weeks, right? His family and me. Yay! And so I would order apple cinnamon tea, 1 bag in, 1 out. A large, 1 bag in, 1 out. Now I've decided to get sweeteners. No, I don't drink coffee. I'm not a coffee person. It's against my religion. I think it's because it's addicting. Anyway, but I don't know that's why. So here I am in this nice room. Hey, that's my Impress You pack. See that red line on the edge of that? That's my Impress You pack. I named it that. It's all the articles that have been published, my travel writing articles. We could get into that, but I want to do this garden thing. Coffee cake is nice. It doesn't have coffee in it. I used to make coffee cake every morning for the kids for school or for breakfast. And I would make apple turnovers for lunch. And I would give them hot dogs and french fries for dinner because they had decided they didn't eat anything else. And I finished fighting with them over all that stuff. My grandson and granddaughter, my grandson has made up his mind that he doesn't taste anything. He just doesn't taste anything. He doesn't like new things. And so he doesn't taste anything. So he rejects the most amazing stuff. Yes, gardening and the knees. Well, the hubby is wonderful. He's 72, and he is very busy composing. He's working on, during COVID, somebody who had written a piece, a tune, along with the words, and she wanted him, asked if he would put it in parts, make accompaniment, and to put it in 4 parts, and so he did, and it was a very complicated piece that she had started, very complicated, like the words and the music, it was just all over the place, it was just, anyway, so he did it, and then he got into it, so he is now writing a choral piece using several languages in the music, and I think it's going to be organ, but I told him I don't like organs. So he was using other instruments, but it's going to be some kind of a piece like that. He wanted to finish it by the end of the year, but he hasn't, so he works on it a lot. Oh, he has Parkinson's. Oh my gosh. You know Mary Jane, MJ, that is on here sometimes? Her husband has Parkinson's too. She was taking care of him at home, and she was the only one doing it, and it was so much work, and she was so burnt out. And then she came and stayed with me for 6 months, and during COVID, and so he's in a home now, and she goes and spends all of her time with him there, but there's like 20 people that do what she did, which is so much easier on her. Now they can just have a relationship and not have to be the caregiver. So how long have you been doing this then? This is a lot of work, Lynn. Is that Lynn? Is that what your name is? Lynn Schmidt? Yes. How long has he had it? I think Michael's only in his 60s, something about maybe 66 or 64 or something. I think they're a bit younger than me. Hard, eh? Very, very hard. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Yeah. Oh, so he's had it only for a year. Oh, okay. Okay. Michael got his back in his 50s. And Mary Jane never could accept it really well. There's always, the loss of being able to go camping and all the things that they lost. It's important that you focus on what you have and not what you lost. If you focus on what you lost, you'll just be sad and miserable, and then today will be useless. Yes, the shuffling and shaking, and doorways. I guess he gets frozen in doorways, but stairs are fine. It's interesting how stairs can be fine, but straight is hard. Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine what you're going through, but you should probably talk to Mary Jane. Dion. Gosh, I've watched you for so long. I was looking for slow cooker recipes, and you were the first video I watched. I think it was pork chop with canned mushroom soup. It was so long ago. Crazy how the time flies. Oh, a camper van is a good idea. Yeah, then you can continue to do things. That's good. I remember those cooker videos. I can't eat canned cream of mushroom soup now because there's milk in it, and milk just causes me so much pain. The other day I had dark chocolate and I woke up congested. So I guess that's what's wrong with chocolate. Even though it didn't have milk in it. But everything, all the dark chocolate comes from factories that have milk. They use milk as well. So who knows? Well, I'm still doing the cleaning videos. I mean, everything is a cleaning video now, isn't it? Lots of cleaning videos, and I don't seem to be getting anywhere. My kitchen is a disaster, and my family room is a disaster. I think there's too many plants in there. Hey, I could make a little table across there, and I my plants on it. Yes. Oh, it's not dairy intolerance. My stomach is fine with it. My stomach loves it. It just hurts my bones. It gives me so much pain. When I was very crippled up and I could barely walk. I really needed a wheelchair or a walker or something. And I was quite young. I was in university. I must have been maybe 30 or something. I had 2 children and I had gotten divorced and gone back to school. School, always school. My parents were very academic. My dad was a professor and my mom was um, how did my sister say it? An executive secretary. My sister is so cool. She's a geneticist. She did breakthrough research on aging. She's really cool and she's very humble. She doesn't like to talk about her work or herself, but she's really cool. You should Google her. Cynthia Kenyon, Kenyon. She's amazing. She gave this talk to a group of graduate students. I've recovered well from what from all the I got off dairy and it made all the difference. It just made an incredible difference. I it got it just everything hurt. I mean, it was so bad I would curl up. It was fibromyalgia. It would come and go. If I were to have something with milk in it today, one hand will hurt terribly, like the back of my hand will really hurt. And then all of a sudden my hand is fine and the other hand hurts. Like totally random pain makes you think you're crazy, or if you tell a doctor, oh yes, I have a pain and it comes for a few minutes in this hand and then it's in the other hand. They don't know how to deal with stuff like that. And I had a doctor once that told me that he couldn't tell me to get off milk because he would get kicked out of the practice. You really have to do those milk and check all these different foods. It's usually the food you love. My mother had Kleenex boxes by every chair. There was a Kleenex box and a dictionary, pad of paper, and a pencil and pen. And a dictionary. Did I already say that? By every chair that you would sit in. And a wastebasket too. And when I was taking care of her, I got her off milk and gave her almond milk or coconut milk, and she never asked for Kleenex anymore. It's amazing. Milk is it's a growth promotant, and that's why the kids are so big that drink milk. If you look at the parents who didn't have so much milk and the kids who did, and they are so much taller than the parents. But in other countries where they don't drink milk, like Japan, and they have soy everything, and they're not giant tall people. They're small. And I know that they think it's better if you're a giant tall person and brain development and all this stuff. But what happens is that if you have cancer, you only need a little milk. It's a growth promotant, and it will cause that cancer to grow and grow and grow. And if you don't have any milk, the cancer can't grow. It has to have a promotant. It's there, but it won't grow unless you feed it. So don't feed it. Is it really 10 o'clock? Guess it's been light out for a while. No, it's 9 o'clock. I never changed that clock. You're 410. Yes, indeed. That's very small, isn't it? What's it like being 410? I made a video once for my daughter. She was only 3 at the time, talking about her pet hamster. Oh, really? I remember making videos for children. 9 o'clock here. Yeah. I have no memory, I can't remember what I was talking about 5 minutes ago. Sometimes I can. Well, I was going to say at some point that I'm on this school list, with all the people that, well, it was called Growing Up in Athens was one of the lists, but the other one was all the people that went to Bernie Harris High School, because in grade 10, they put all, that was in the middle of desegregation. Hi, Tyler. In the middle of desegregation, there was they were they were changing all the black schools had black teachers who were not as well educated as the white teachers, and so they shuffled everybody around, and so all the schools got some white teachers and some black teachers, and so then this was to help all the kids get the same education. It was very good. You go back now, and these old churches that used to have really rundown cars, they've all got brand new cars in them, so it works. Food dye causes brain problems. Isn't that interesting? I know that red dye number 3, at some point, they decided that that was a really bad one. Now, wait a minute. What was I saying? It's gone. So somebody else said something here. Remember watching How to Shop at the Supermarket. Oh, yes, I did that. Yeah, I made about 5 or 6. They're all there. Anybody, if you want to watch any of these, just type in anything that sounds related and put, that Nancy Today, and you'll find it. Like, it was How to Shop for Groceries. I went through the grocery store and I explained all the things in the grocery store and how you could make it, or which was the cheapest to buy, and how to shop. I went through the whole store, and there's about 5 or 6 videos, I think. I tried to do that in Germany, but the person that was in charge kept coming over and telling me I wasn't allowed to film. And I was very disobedient, and I kept filming anyway. Finally, they said, "We're going to have to ask you to leave." So I left, but I wasn't shopping, I was just filming. My family was shopping, my daughter, who lived there. I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done. Yes, buying bulk is the thing. You buy cheaper, and then you have it for later. When there is a good supply, that's the time to buy things on sale and buy a lot. Buy extra, you need 1, so you buy 2. And then, you do that every time, and you end up with a food supply. And then I think that's very important. We're in a food shortage, sort of, right now, or at least a delivery shortage, so it's not so nice to do that, I suppose, but I've always shopped this way, so I'm always going to shop this way. So when I send Willem to get applesauce, I have him get a case of applesauce. And, whatever, when we run out, we buy a dozen. And then we eat them up, and then we run out, and we buy a dozen. I suppose it's best to buy 1 now, because I have a dozen, so I should just buy 1 every time and not have to buy a dozen at one time. But it's very, very important. They said in church that it's cool to do the basic ingredients, isn't it? Yes, you can make bread. Making bread is so simple. I have videos on here on how to make bread. Oh, yes, and I think in Britain there's a transportation problem, isn't there? That's why the gas got so expensive or something. My son says, if 8% of people go electric, it's enough to shut down the whole gas supply industry. Because the profit margin is so small that if your local gas station loses 8% of its stuff, its income, it's enough to, anyway, but I'm realizing now, what about, that's 8% of one place. Oh yes, so it's 8% over the whole board. Then it's not going to be like you can keep having a gasoline car when most people are having electric cars, because in order to get that small amount of gasoline to those people, it's going to be enormously expensive, because it's not only going to put out the gas stations, they'll go out of business, It'll also put out the delivery people that deliver the gas. Well, whenever there's a... Yes, there's many causes right now. One thing is it's the shipping containers, and then the trucks to take the shipping containers. I know there's a huge amount of huge container ships. I guess those are called ocean liners, that are sitting out at the water in Vancouver. I need access to your old bread making videos. The last time I made bread 15 years ago, I shut down our electricity. It wasn't very good electricity. You can also get used bread makers now. Used bread makers are good. They'll make a loaf of bread for you, but you can't really add what you want. You have to be exactly right on about what they're telling you how to do. Yeah, in my channel, there is so much stuff if you're a prepper or you want to be a prepper. Eggs do not need to be refrigerated, but they should be oiled. I don't oil mine, but if you want to keep them for a long time, if you dip them in oil so that they can't lose the air. Oh, sourdough is very simple too. You just mix up whole wheat. Of course, all this gluten stuff is not good for you at all, or may not be. Not good for me. Yes, I still go to the dump, but I don't bring stuff home as much. I take stuff more than I bring it, I think. And yeah, there's 150 dump videos, and there's about 350 soap making videos. And there's the bread making videos. There used to be about 5 of them, I think. But I would mix up a sponge. So I would take the... So you've seen the sourdough starter videos. This is hard. This is hard because I can't monopolize the conversation, and that's what I'm trying to do. Whereas the conversation is evolving because people are all thinking of different things, and I'm reading them out. But to make a sourdough starter, you just start with water and whole wheat, and you mix it up, and and yeast. Or no, you don't have yeast. You just mix it up, and you let it ferment, and it creates its own yeast. And you just keep letting it ferment, and then you use that as your starter. There are recipes that add powdered milk and sugar and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I don't think I even added sugar. But anyway, so check on here, see if there's a sourdough bread recipe or sourdough making recipe. And also, what was the other thing we were just talking about? The old bread making recipes. Yes, when I made bread, I would always mix up a sponge first. So I would water, wheat, and yeast were my 3 ingredients. Oh, you have chickens. No, it's okay. You don't have to stay on topic. It's okay, because this is good. It's evolving. But making bread was, it was so simple. I used the Tassajara bread recipe. There's an old, and I think you can find it online, Tasajahara. There was this place in California, it was a hippie place, the Tassajara, whatever, and they had the live videos with conversation are difficult to do. You were doing a good job. Thanks. So Tassajara bread, I would start with water, wheat, and yeast. No, the Tassajara bread you started with, you'll have to go look at it. It was honey, yeast, oil, eggs, and wheat, or flour. I always started with wheat. I have tons of wheat stored. I have I don't know, I thought I had 200 gallon jars of wheat stored under the basement floor, under the living room floor. We may have to pull up the living room floor one day. Who knows? But there's also many kinds of beans under there. I think I bought those 50 gallon bags, no, 50 pound bags of, Anyway, feed bags, a feed bag full of beans. Now, if you want to get stuff like that, I would go to a farmer and buy from a farmer at harvest time, buy a feed bag full of beans from him. You'll be paying a lot less than when you buy a little package in the grocery store. And if you've got an instant pot, or even if you're cooking on the wood stove, you can make beans. And I used to get molasses from a feed mill. It was not food grade molasses, it was feed grade, and peanuts from them too. But you just wash them. They grow everything the same. It's all grown the same way. It's just that perhaps dust fell into the feed, or wait a minute, maybe other things that are. Anyway, but you're going to cook it, and if you cook it, you kill everything. So if there's anything bad in it, I fed my family feed mill molasses for many years. I put it in my bread. That was the only time we ate it. It was blackstrap and it was not very sweet, but that's what I used in my bread. But you add molasses to sugar and you make brown sugar. You don't have to buy expensive brown sugar. And you blend up sugar with a little bit of cornstarch and you get icing sugar. So those things, so you can really cut down on the, just go right to basics and start from there. Potatoes are one of the very best, cheapest foods out there. If you have $20 and you buy $20 worth of potatoes, you have a lot of food. If you have $20 and you buy mostly potatoes, but you also buy something to make the potatoes taste good, like salt or mayonnaise or butter or oil or spices, you can really do well like that. Eggs are kind of pricey now. They're a lot more pricey than potatoes, but so if you have eggs and potatoes, that's really, really good. And then frozen peas are the best. I love frozen peas. I would eat them in a glass. I walk around with a glass of frozen peas. Shake them into your mouth and chew on them. They're very crunchy, or not crunchy, but they're chewy, and they're not that cold. They kind of melt in your mouth. It's important to be stocked up because all this climate change, really at this point, it's not really, people may or may not believe what is causing it or that it's happened before, but whatever it is, we're going to live through it. And I don't think I'm going to live through as much of it as other people, but it's getting to be the end of the world. It's really getting nearby. And I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but the planet will become inhabitable is basically what's going to happen. And so I feel like the earth has a spirit and she's just shaken us off. She's just had enough. Anyway, so tornadoes that destroy a whole state, and Katrina seemed to be the first one, right? And the huge tsunami in Indonesia, and those were quite a while ago now. But now you get a tornado that stays on the ground for 300 miles. You get hurricanes that sit in place for a week and a half. You get droughts that burn everything. Everything catches fire, burns towns to the ground in a day. It used to be things happened out in the country. Tornadoes were out in the fields in Kansas or something, Oklahoma. But now they're right in the towns, right in the cities, and everything is changing. And I think that it's my own feeling that we will each lose our houses by some disaster. And so we have to be prepared for when you lose your house, where will you go? If you have a big enough property, the property will still exist, but your house won't be there. I haven't heard about the sun cycles, so I'll have to look that up. Yeah, kids are really a trip, aren't they? You want to keep them alive, you want to keep them healthy. I think multivitamins are the way to go. The solar flares mess up the internet. But I always have this thing about keeping everything digitally. Sometimes that's good. If you lose your house and you lose everything, all your photos are still online. But what about when YouTube stops existing? Everything stops. Remember when you had GeoCities and you could make these awesome web pages on GeoCities? That's all gone. It was bought up by Yahoo, who just got rid of everything. So, too bad, so sad. So I know that my journal will one day dissolve or be gone. But until that happens, so I've gone back to doing paper journals. I should do live journals again as well. But I think that having a paper copy is very good if it doesn't get destroyed. And I think that perhaps burying things would be a good idea. Like if you have a tornado come through, but you've buried a whole bunch of food in gallon jars or something, then after you have no house, you can still go to the yard and dig up and get out all the beans. Like maybe you should have cooking pots and fire making supplies. And I love my paper journal. I journal everywhere. Isn't that an interesting idea? It's like the underground bunker idea that everything is in there. My husband used to want to bury a car. But I think it might be a good idea to put like a culvert into a hill and put stuff in it. But anyway, I think that, in a town where everybody loses their house but one person, and that's the only person's house that's left and they don't know why, I think it's because that person needs to help all the other people. I think it's a good idea to have my food in the basement under the floor. Should probably bury the jars in the basement. Should probably put them a little lower, just in case. But this hill is made of sand, and we have a stream not too far away. And in the spring, the stream is right beside the studio. It's right here. So the house might go that way. Anyway, so it's just something to think about, to be prepared, and to be prepared to help your neighbors. If your house is the only house on the block left standing, you could feed them. Maybe we should have a basement put in under the house. That was going to cost a lot 25 years ago. It was going to cost $40,000 then, which we didn't have, so we wouldn't have it now either. Food dyes could be a part of autism. That's interesting. That's interesting. Now, can autism progress? There's a child whose face used to be one way, but his eyes and nose, he's looking more like he's got Down syndrome. And although he doesn't, but he does have some tics, autism stuff, everything has to be. Oh, yes, storm cellars. Yes. Yes, that's a really good idea, storm cellar. I probably won't do any of these things, but somebody else will, so it's a good idea to have it out there. Yeah, those were built in places where they were tornado prone, right? At least that's what I've seen on movies, especially like The Wizard of Oz, the movie. I used to love The Wizard of Oz. We used to watch it every single year. You mean you've seen a difference in the special program that children with autism are getting worse as they have food dye? And if you stop having food dye, does it get better? That's very interesting. It's very interesting. Sensory issues, hates, labels, certain food textures. Yes. Yes, I have a friend whose son had autism like that. It was called Asperger's. And he had to wash his hands all the time, and he would clean himself until he bled, Schools make them better. Oh, that's good. This link between autism and vaccines is is not true. That was a study on 12 children. Since then, they've done many studies, many studies with many children, and it's been shown to be false. The science is not with that theory. And a lot of people are not vaccinating children because they think it's going to cause autism. Oh, making sounds to speaking because of school. Excellent. Excellent. Mary Jane just sent me hearts. I love my friend. She's a good friend. So it's now 20 after 10. I was going to do some work in here with these, cleaning it up in here. So do you want to do it with me? Should I stop the video and start it again? Let's see, how many people are here? 9, 10 people. Hi, Paulina. Should I start a new video? I guess so, because it's a totally different topic. But I do think I should get up and start doing something. All right, so I think I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to turn it on again. Sam Smythe and Jack's son. What does that mean? My craft room is my bedroom. My world. I took my cousin Mary, I took her a tour around the house. I said, well, this is all wood for projects I'm going to do. And over here, this is for this I'm doing, and that I'm doing, and this I'm doing. And everywhere on my whole deck, there was a bathtub full of plants that I was replanting. And there was the sun shady deck had wood and fleece and all that stuff, and everywhere. It's just, so my bedroom is not where my crafts are. It's where the clothes are. Lots of clothes. Well, this has been a lovely visit. I'm going to change and do a different visit now. We're going to do something else. Unless, first, if you have any comment, let's talk about your comments. Your son goes to mainstream school. He was not verbal. Now he has full-blown conversation, is so smart and excellent in math. I enjoyed this visit. Must continue a large issue in my bedroom. That's amazing, Dion. So, Dion, you have an autistic son, and Lynn, you are you were driving and Jeannie. So there's Dion, and Jeannie, and Lynn. You've all been watching, you've all been interesting. So we've got 3 people on here that have, Dion has 2 autistic boys. It's hard, when it comes in like this, and because everybody I don't have faces, and all the information that goes with one person is not all together in these. I get little bits. I'm from this place. I'm from this place. I'm from this place. And so I know that in the conversation there are 3 people from, say, the Midwest, or Lynn, I remember you're from Pennsylvania because we talked about that. But everything gets blurred up in my head. You just worked with the children. Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit, I was scared of having a Down syndrome child, so I didn't have any children after I turned 38. I figured I was done, because a friend of mine was pregnant at the same time as me, and mine was fine, and hers had Down syndrome. And I just didn't think I could handle that my whole life, taking care of a Down syndrome child. So I stopped having children. But I would not have aborted one if I'm not into abortion at all. But I'm not anti-abortion for all the people that need it for some reason that I don't understand. It's not my place. I know, yeah, that's the thing. They're very sweet children, and they give love. My friend, who is 88 years old now, or something like that, 80-something, her son, they just put him in a home because they're going to be going, and they needed him in care somewhere, and they visit him. But he He was the sweetest fellow. You're very beautiful. You see me from Chile. Thank you, Paulina. So we have one here from Chile, a few from the United States, one from Moscow. But people come and go. People come and go. Like there's 7 people now, but when I end it, and I'll push done, and it will say so many views, so many likes, and it'll be like 160 views. And I will have only seen a maximum of like 14 or something. So there's been 10 on right now. Now we have 7. Okay. So I'm going to end this conversation and get up and start working on this if I still feel like it. Oh, you're in Scotland. Oh, that's right. Scotland, Chile. I'm in Canada. Scotland flag turned black. What does that mean? I don't understand. Did it because it got washed or because it was out in the sun and shouldn't have gotten black? Okay, so I guess we'll have to retitle this. This is a lot of conversations about preparedness and prepping. Oh, you're showing a black flag on you. Okay. I didn't do those emojis. I changed it to a face with lots of hearts. And so whenever, instead of a thumbs up, because of loving hearts is more of what I'd rather give people than just a thumbs up. So whenever I'm talking to somebody, you go to their name and touch their name, and then you go down. This is on, they keep calling it Meta now. What's the name of it? I see the word Meta, which is, I always remember what I read. Well, more than I hear. Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And so you go to the name at the top, click on it, and you go down, there's a list, and one of them says emoji. And you can click that, and then you can choose from like a whole bunch of them. But you know, I had an emoji once I really loved. It was, you could add it as you were talking, and it was the one with the person that would lie down and go to sleep. I loved it. And there was another one where you put your arms up and it's like, oh, whatever. Or it had a whole bunch of them. One was eating a cookie, one was banging the head. I didn't use those, but I used the one, and I can't find it now. And I don't know how to get that back. Anyway, you can message me in the comments. So I'm glad that you guys are getting to know each other. It's very nice, especially you both with autism. Hope you took note of your names and can contact each other. It's hard to find people on Facebook, but when you do, it's really cool to connect like that. Anyway, I'm Nancy Today. On Facebook, it has 2 A's, and then you get me. But if you go to the Nancy Today that's written like it is here, then you get a different channel, which is mine, but I don't go there very often. When I do go there, I tell them that I'm over at the AA. Because Facebook didn't believe I have 2 A's in my name, which I don't. They're so smart. Okay, well, it's been very nice talking to you. Thank you for this wonderful experience. Did I finish my tea? Look at that. I didn't even finish my tea yet. This is a long goodbye, don't you think? Hey, there's some blue sky over there. Or maybe that's just a reflection. Okay, I'm going to turn this off and turn it on again and do my garden with you. Tea is cold. Everybody have a wonderful day. Really, have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye. You can do this at home. Results may differ.